Kids are in the back again. Don't start your packed lunch till we get on the motorway.
Okay.
I do like this, putting you two in the back.
Where would you sit, KDM, on the bus on the way to a game?
Oh Jesus!
Were you at the back?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't cool enough to be at the back. I wanted to be.
They stuck her in the toilet.
Yeah, it was underneath.
Get there and shut up.
I was in the middle. Basically, I was one of those that wanted to be involved but didn't want to be too involved. So just like sitting on the periphery, you know, dip in, dip out.
No point asking lol, is there?
You weren't.
Well, there is, because when you...
back row on his own.
Whole back row.
That nobody else was allowed into.
Yeah.
And driving.
No, I think when you first start in any team, you're at somewhere near the front, aren't you? Just trying to keep your head down, and then slowly but surely,
Yeah, fight your way to the back.
you work your way.
Who was at the back of your bus?
Martin Johnson, myself. I don't know. You know, some players they're just got in the zone, aren't they? Can't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
The minute they get on the bus, they can't talk. And then there's others that actually, if you've got an hour's journey to the stadium, you actually need a chat, don't you?
I remember once going lol from Penny Hill Park to Twickenham for England-Ireland, and amazingly I was a travelling reserve. They said, what?
That's important, though, mate.
It is, because
people underestimate that.
But on the bus, I remember it's not a long journey, but not that far out of Twickenham, you basically couldn't stay in your seat, and you were up and you were kind of ready, and you looked like you were going to butt through one of the windows.
Yeah.
I remember I looked at Jono, and Jono just looked at me like he was looking at a wall, and I looked at Jace, and Jace just gave me a wink. Yeah. And he just gave me and walked off, and he just tapped me on the back of the neck. He said, "We'll have a good day today, mate." And you're like super chilled. You're like this, ready to rip up trees. And Jono was just like, he looked like a cyborg.
Yeah.
Three completely different people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember Kerry Sweeney? He used to play 10.
Yes,
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Bushead.
yeah, truckhead. We used to call him,
Truckhead.
with a massive head. But so he would want to try and sit near the back, and he felt that his time was more important than anyone. So he'd sit at the back of the bus. But when the bus was pulling in, he'd get up, and he'd want to get off first.
Oh.
So he'd sort of barge his way down to try and get off first, and we all cottoned on to this. So we wouldn't leave the bus until Sweeney got off the bus. So when the bus arrived, we'd all start going like this: Sweeney, 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 and no one's allowed to leave the bus and he got really stubborn about it. And sometimes he wouldn't leave, so he'd be sat there for like 5 minutes.
You were taking that game seriously again,
Yeah,
weren't you?
big game. Yeah, I lost that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is Stick to Rugby. This is episode 2, brought to you by Defender. And if you hadn't noticed, it's very serious stuff, okay? I do remember being on a tour, in my last tour in 2010. I sound like I was in the army. Last tour in 2010. Australia, New Zealand. And it was like, right, we are not two teams. This is not a test team and a midweek team. Anyway, but there is bus 1 and bus 2. Anyway, I was on bus 2 because they really wanted to raise the level of the midweek team. So I was in that. But basically, whoever was on the bus, Hask was number 1, I was number 2. So Hask would run it would be on the mic on the way to training and back every day because it's a bit of a trek. And honestly, the bits of that tour I remember a tiny bit of one of the games we played. The rest of it was the bus journeys were honestly, they're like some of the best memories of your career, sitting down, listening to Hask, being completely inappropriate. But whatever anyone says about him in that environment, hilarious, as you know, Lo. I mean, he had the boys just wincing and crying with laughter. And
It's very good.
it meant I woke up and everyone else is nervous about the game, nervous about training, selection, fitness testing. I'm just like, right, I've got to nail my chat on the bus. I've got to nail it. This is it.
This is my
big for
role
me.
on tour.
Yeah.
Did you have any superstitions before games, KDM?
Right, so I had one when I was younger when I first got capped of that I never wanted to put my shirt on until I got outside the change room. So I came back in, took my shirt, had my sports bra on, GPS on, ready to go. And then women's game took off a bit and Sky started covering it. I was like, shit, this is a dreadful idea. I
can't
want to be topless
Everyone's
on
gonna
Sky.
see.
Yeah, so I had to get rid of that. You guys?
I used to like fresh studs for every game, long ones, because the prop, traction. I wanted fresh studs for every game. But I used to tell whoever our kit man was that I had a superstition that it was unlucky to change my own studs. But that wasn't true. I just got to do it. I saw him at the rec this weekend and he said, "Studsy." So yeah. He goes, "Oh, remember?" I was like, "Yeah, you're a good man. You saved me there." Thinking, no, mate.
I'd always wear like a posh pair of pants, just in case I had to change the shorts.
In case you pulled it off.
Because I shit myself.
I promise you, a day before my Five Nations debut, I'm standing there with 10 empty bottles of red wine, and he went, "This doesn't look very good, does it?"
You had to bring headgear and a root vegetable.
If you are not at 99% full chat as you run anywhere near him, you're going backwards and getting smoked.
I think he's one of the best players in the world, if I'm honest.
The Islands bench came on and won them a game, and that's the difference.
Start losing games at Twickenham, it starts to become terminal.
Dan Sheehan, say no more, off the bench. He's the king. Starts for the Lions, full stop.
He was the biggest loss to Welsh rugby.
I think they're going to win a Grand Slam.
Ooh, do you? Stick to Rugby is brought to you by Defender.
Right, this is it's my delicacy this week, local delicacy from Bath.
Lol's teeth.
A few elements.
Exactly.
This is the Bath soft cheese,
Right,
is what
okay,
this
can we
is.
just talk about your cheese knife.
We will come to the knife, okay?
How old is
The
it?
cheese is from Bath soft cheese. This
Sorry.
is native to Bath, okay? And I was going to bring it in last week, but I didn't. I ate that one, and this is a fresh one. Okay, so it's not the same as last week. And these are, yes, they are crackers, but they are called Bath squares. Okay, the
It's
knife
also rusty, but
it looks rusty, but it's actually sealed and it's clean and safe. This is made from a piece of leaf spring suspension from an old Land Rover. So this is a piece of Land Rover suspension crafted into a cheese knife. Okay,
You're all about sustainability, aren't you?
Yeah.
I'm all about.
and on brand.
I'm on brand. All right, let's try it.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. So, what's this one?
Bloody knife. Yeah, that's cheese.
Okay. Is that brie?
No, it's Bath soft cheese. How many times have I said it?
Well,
Just soft cheese.
Not fucking
it
complicated.
just looks like brie. Why can't you just say brie? Bath brie.
Excuse fingers.
Oh, God.
go on then.
There's a knife.
Well, sharp that.
Let's go with the suspension.
It's like this is like.
Bath brie.
It's like it's not brie. Right, we got some feedback. Right,
Oh. Speaking of EastEnders,
YouTube comments.
yeah,
What?
I'm gonna feed them back to you. Just some feedback for everyone.
finish your
Are
mouth.
these keyboard warriors?
Tom Shanklin's a wank. That's too much. We can't put that.
Yes.
Right, got some YouTube feedback comments. Okay.
Okay, great.
Whoa, which as far as I'm aware is English for stop a horse. Makeup's got its handful with those 4 shiny heads, including Martin Johnson.
Oh,
So you got away with
I was
that.
like, whoa.
You got away with that. Looks like a stag do on the way to the darts. I'd very happily be on a
It's
stag
better
do.
looking like a stag do on the way back from the darts.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I really want to go to the darts.
This would be a decent pod if it wasn't
Noted.
about union. If it wasn't about rugby unions, presumably that's from a leaguey. Just to address that, we can't give any names yet, but we are actually talking to 1 or 2 big names from the world of rugby league that we're going to get on here. So it's not all about union, actually. I got a couple of comments. Oddly, we shared the same
Yes.
insults, both getting called Natalie Cassidy, who is Sonia from EastEnders.
Poor Natalie Cassidy, that's all I'm
Yeah.
going to say. Apologies to you.
No, you should be all right with that. So Natalie
What,
Cassidy.
looking like me or you?
Well, you look like Sonia from EastEnders, is what they've said on YouTube.
Fine.
And I've got.
Explains the Alsatian outside.
The question is, though, who's Grant Mitchell out of you?
all
we,
three of us.
we look like Phil and Grant Mitchell, yeah?
Yeah, but I
With the Mitchells.
Well, who's Peggy?
it is nice to see Wellard, it is. I met Natalie Cassidy, Sonia from EastEnders, in Eros nightclub, North London's premier nightclub, 3 years running.
Where we also met Right Said Fred.
She was probably getting hassled by everyone, including us. She was a legend, mate. Let's talk Six Nations debuts, please. Lawrence, remember yours?
Well, it's so long ago. It was the Five Nations.
God, yeah.
1996. I think I made 2 or 3 caps. So I was picked Paris away for your first ever game at the old Parc des Princes. And I've got to be honest, I was shitting myself. Because the French pack in those days were enormous. And I was rooming with Ben Clark, who was a legend of rugby.
What a guy.
I was a little bit in awe, actually. Just come back from the Lions, British and Irish Lions tour as the man of the series, having played in New Zealand, the guy that the All Blacks wanted to keep behind. And I remember going over we were staying in the Trianon Palace in Versailles, which is a beautiful, beautiful hotel. And it's Thursday before the Test match. And this is on the cusp of the professional era, so I'm just caveating that for everyone listening at home. And I walked in and Ben Clark had a Marlboro Light on the go out the window. I was rooming with him, so that sort of slightly put me at ease.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I can imagine it. Hello, boy.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting it.
Imagine it.
Yeah, hoover the room, tidy up. And he said, I'll leave the door open. We always have a red wine club on a Thursday night. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. 2 days before the game. Anyway, next thing, wine waiter comes in, 10 bottles of red wine, and all the forwards pile in. Jason, Leonard, Dean Richards, all the whole forward pack. I'm not sure what the backs were up to, but they weren't invited. So anyway, we're chewing the fat for the next couple of hours, sort of talking about, violence generally and sort of things to get you ready for the game. And I remember waking up and now it's the captain's run, and the room looked like an abattoir, if I'm honest.
And the final scene from Braveheart.
Fucking claret everywhere. Anyway, Ben Clark says to me, listen, do your job, get rid of the evidence. So I said, yeah, no problem. So I put a dressing gown on, Trianon Palace, but I still got it now, actually. And
I can see you rocking it.
I put all the wine, empty wine bottles, cigarettes, ashtray, and I've literally opened the door. I thought, right, where do I put it? He said, put it outside Victor Obogu's room. I thought, excellent. So I tiptoed down the corridor, trying to find Victor's room. Jack Rowe, the England coach, walks around the corner, and I promise you, a day before my Five Nations debut, I'm standing there with 10 empty bottles of red wine, cigarettes, everything, dressing gown, and he went, this doesn't look very good. I went, no, it doesn't. And then, as if my life couldn't get any worse, the dressing gown then opened.
Still doesn't look very good.
No, it didn't look any better. Let me tell you. So I'm standing there.
Here's the mannequin.
Anyway, he looked at me. He said, "Who are you rooming with?" And I went, "Victor Obogu." And he went, "Can I make a suggestion?" He said, "Can I suggest you're man of the match tomorrow?" I thought that's a very good idea. So I went and put it outside Victor's room. I was thinking my England career's over, and I ended up going back to the bedroom. Ben Clark said, "You've been gone quite a while. What happened?" I said, "Can I make a suggestion? You and I need to play really well tomorrow." So
how did it work out?
Well, we lost. We lost to France. Thomas Castagnet scored a drop goal.
Oh yeah, well,
in the last few
stuck
minutes.
his tongue out.
Yeah, stuck his tongue out and ran up and down. And
It's not your fault, mate. You were hungover.
That was the end of that. Very true. Very, very true.
Six Nations debut.
Yeah, 2002. It was the second game in the tournament. The first game Wales had got hammered by Ireland away. And
Good one to miss, like.
yeah, Graham Henry was coach, and Steve Hansen was assistant coach. He was new in. After that game, remember Yes and Harris?
Yeah, Rugby League. Yeah.
So he started that game, and it didn't go well, and they probably threw him into the deep end a little bit too early. After that Ireland game, Graham Henry leaves, quits his job, goes to New Zealand. Steve Hansen takes over, rings the changes. I come in, I was at Saracens at
We
the
living
time.
together, were we?
Yeah.
Not like that. Yeah.
Yeah, one bit flat. But I just remember coming in and I remember looking round, and I'd been capped in the summer of 2001 against Japan. So it wasn't my first cap, it was my second cap, but I remember just like in awe of the people there, because you had like Rob Howley, Scott Quinnell, like proper big, massive legends. And Wales was going through a bit of a transition at the time, and I don't remember too much of the game. I didn't do horrifically. Scott Quinnell dropped the ball over the line, which would have won it for us, and there was another chance for David James to score. So did well.
But you're over it.
So you're blaming other people, is that
Yeah.
He was great.
Lost out in the win bonus.
What did Scott Quinnell ever do? That's what you're saying, isn't it? Yeah. KDM?
2007 Six Nations against Scotland. Jeff Richards was a coach at the time, and he was pretty ruthless. Like, you only got on, and there was about 5 or 6 of us new caps post the World Cup. So sat on the bench for 50 minutes. When you start to like turn around, try and make eye contact.
The high knees on the touchline.
Yeah. I'm ready to go. To be fair, got my first cap. But to be honest, the rugby wasn't the thing I remember. It was the song. So I don't know about you guys, but after first cap, you had to stand at the front of the bus, sing a flipping song. And the girls at that time, the culture was a bit different. It was almost like don't talk until you've got 10 caps kind of vibe. So you knew they weren't going to stand and applaud you. They were going to give you some stick. Yeah. So if I'm honest, after I got my 30-minute cameo, I spent the majority of the time shitting myself about my song.
Yeah, the song.
What was it?
What did you sing?
Dirty Dancing, I've had the time of my life.
Oh,
I don't think
That's a duet though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And I butchered it as
Not
well.
that day, it wasn't.
With a gravelly voice.
You know what? You always pick a song that everyone can join in
Right.
quickly, because they're just going to throw things at you anyway.
Did they join in?
They did, and to be honest, I think because there was 5 new caps that day, a couple of tries, it was just blended into the rest.
One of many.
Whoever went first had to go through 4 songs.
All right,
before
let's do our songs.
What did you sing, Flats?
Oh yeah.
I know what you sang.
Spandau.
Yeah.
Spandau Ballet.
Gold.
So true. Funny how it.
Yeah.
Funny how it seems, always in time, but never in line for dreams. Is that right? Always
Head
in line,
over
but
heels,
never with toe to toe. This is the sound of my soul.
Thank you.
First cap against,
Very
not the
good.
Six Nations, we'll do that in a sec, but I did it against, my first cap was against the Springboks in South Africa. and they said, you've got to do a song. And I'm like, what do I do? And I was walking to the post-match function where I was going to get my cap. And I said to Phyllis, to Phil Greening, I said, mate, I need a song, and my mind has gone blank.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll sort you out, boy. Yeah, I'll sort you out, Bab. So he puts his blazer on. He goes, I'll teach you a song. And literally in between changing rooms and dinner, he taught me that song. In my head, I was genuinely, about the game, I was only 20, I was a kid. When they put me on there, I was so confident. I was like, these guys better be careful because I'm going to kill everyone. That's like how confident I was. Didn't quite work out like that. But then it's like, I'm going to kill everyone. Oh my God, these poor, And then you get to the song and I'm like, I am a lamb. I am a scared little lamb. I'm going to have my eyes poked out by a raven.
Yeah.
So you couldn't remember the line-out calls, but you remember the words.
No calls. I was just, anyway, Phyllis taught me in about 2 minutes.
I wanted to sing Bonnie Tyler, Take the Clip to the Heart.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I really wanted to sing, but I shit myself.
You have holding out for a hero instead, is it?
Well, we don't need another hero. No, I actually sung, let's say, Mac the Knife in the end. But,
But
I got, first few lines, and then everyone just sort of screams at you. Generally shouts abuse.
Yeah. I remember I doing mine, and the boys are like, shh, shh. So no one was joining in. I was like, come on, shh. You do a song?
Yeah, Ice Ice Baby.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's your favourite, wasn't
Did you do
it?
the dance moves as well?
And the rap.
Yeah, did all.
Whole thing?
Yeah. I don't know
That was your favourite though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just, you've got to know a song, haven't you, from start to finish. I know a lot of songs, but I only know the intro. And then it's like all together now.
Yeah, you just hope everyone joins in the chorus.
We lived together, and Shanks used to do like in-house workouts, so he didn't have to go to the gym. When he's doing a workout in his bedroom, he used to have Vanilla Ice Ice Baby on repeat. And he's in there doing pull-ups and core work, and he's like bizarre. You walk in.
I wonder where this was going.
He walked in. I walked in once.
And me.
I walked in and he's wearing nothing except, the little sports socks you wear, like the low ones.
Yeah.
He's wearing nothing but sports socks. And I was like, you're just wearing socks? He's like, yeah, my favourites. Grippy on the floor. He had a bit of grip. Otherwise, didn't want to create any laundry for himself, so he was doing naked workouts. Listening to Vanilla Ice. True story, is it not? True story.
And you wonder where these rumours start.
Yeah. He had a Swiss ball in his room. It's really weird.
I'll take a Fifth Amendment on that. What about your Five Nations debut?
You might remember this, Lowell. You were playing,
right.
And it was France at home, France week at Twickenham, and we did a defence session on the Monday, and I'd come from Saracens with Julian White, among others. And at that point, we didn't have a defence coach because not everyone did then. But I remember doing this defence session, and they would say, right, well, someone's going to pop up on the inside and do this, and Dan Luger, we're all in the line. Dan Luger cut into the line and just went straight past me. And I was like, and Darren Garforth, the Leicester prop, he was like, Flat, your man. I was like, what? I haven't seen anyone. What's happened? And I had no idea. And Julian and I, like, no idea. So then they said, right, go at Flats' hole again. And he went through the hole again. And I was like, I genuinely didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing, the whole stepping in thing, which everyone just knows now, right? So we have a team meeting. And the coach said, there are 30 players in there and 28 defend at test international level. And there were 2 off the pairs, Flats and Whitey, about me and Whitey. They're 2 cannot defend at international level. And it was like, oh my God, he's digging me out in front of the whole team. And I was about,
week one.
I had an answer for everything. I was like, and he looked at me and I was like, I've never done a defence session before. And it was like, what? I was like, mate, I've played a lot of games for Sarries. I've played in the Heineken Cup. I've already got capped. But I've done tackling practice. I don't know about stepping into the line. Like, everyone just knows now. Didn't know then. Yeah. And it was like, basically, like, shut up, you gobshite. I was like, well, it sounds like a reasonable excuse.
And I've never tackled a winger, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, I've never seen Dan Luger on the field. So I'm like, anyway, they're like, right, predictably, I get a tap on the shoulder. You're not playing for England this week. You're playing for England A. So you've got to go from Surrey down to Redruth in Cornwall. And your first session's at 8:30 tomorrow morning in the gym. So I was like, right, binned. Humiliated in front of the team. They kept hold of Julian White because he was all right. His defence wasn't very good yet, but he was the strongest man in the world. So they keep him. Bin me off because they had Leonard anyway and Trevor Woodman. So I drive down to Redruth on my own. It gets to like Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, and the coach, England A, rings my room. I'm in the room, and he said, Trevor Woodman's done his ankle. You're back up to Twickenham. You're on the bench against France. Get up there, have some tea, straight to bed, wake up, it's match day. We get into the changing rooms, and I'm sitting there, I'm just suddenly on the bench. They've got all my kit, it's all ready. And the defence coach, Phil, walked up to me and he says, I have every confidence in you. As a defender at this level, you're going to be fantastic. And he walked off, and Phil Vicker was like, no, we fucking don't, boy. No, we fucking don't, boy. I was like, no, he don't. He really don't.
Do you remember initiations?
I got on, and I actually dominated, won us the game in 4 minutes.
Yeah, we had initiation at Saracens before. And you had to bring headgear and a root vegetable.
Yeah.
So I had a headgear, like a hard hat, and I think outside the box, I bought a marrow with me. Little did I know that when we turned up, the first thing I had to do, and look, boys had radishes, turnips, parsnips. The first thing I had to do was eat all your root vegetable. It took me about an hour to eat a marrow, but the headgear was the best because I just had a hard hat on. Flats. Now, back when he had hair, we bicked his hair so it was proper shiny, and we put a black plait all the way down.
That was the initiation. You bicked his hair.
We picked it, yeah.
But he had a plait, and we had to stick it with duct tape. We were sponsored by duct tape at the time.
And
big
super glue.
square and super glue.
Loctited it.
Who was the guy from Kickboxer?
Tong Po.
Tom Poe.
Tong Po.
There's photo evidence of it somewhere. It's the best headgear I've ever seen.
I reckon he looked like Ming the Merciless.
Yeah, it did.
Goatee as
The
well.
problem was, we thought that the super glue. We were honestly, there are other brands available. We were sponsored by duct tape and Loctite. Do you
Yes,
remember?
that's right,
We had
yeah.
moves called Loctite. We were one of our sponsors. So we literally had Loctite and duct tape to the back of my head.
Not a defensive
which
move,
is great. Which is great crack until you're training the next day. You wake up hungover and you got a session and it don't come off.
Yeah.
So in the end, you're like, lads, just yank it off. And yeah, it was bad times. Bad times.
Right, should we talk about the Six Nations?
Oh, man.
So round
Yeah.
one, I think if all of us had predicted the results, I mean, it kind of went to form, didn't it, really?
Yeah.
Shanks, we're going to start in Paris because that's where the tournament started.
Yeah, it did.
France, obviously 43 points to Wales is 0. 13th successive test loss. I don't think anyone expected them to win. But I mean, France not even really looked like they got out of second, maybe third gear. You know, Antoine Dupont came off, standing ovation, you know, having done everything he needed to do. Pierre Bury, 2 tries. They just looked so powerful, didn't they, France? And it was kind of ominous, really, for the tournament.
What did you think of Wales?
Underwhelmed. I thought they'd struggle, if we're honest, because France away, even with a good team, is going to be hard, let alone a team that's struggling for a lot of confidence. I thought France didn't really get out of second gear that often. I think they relied just on Dupont with some real magic moments. I think the power showed. I think, you know, the conditions weren't great. They weren't really suited to wide rugby. It poured down and the ball was greasy, you could see that. But just the difference in size, the difference in power, winning collisions. I thought Wales really tried. Like, I think effort was there, but there was 3 or 4 occasions, right, where you've got 3 players in a ruck, 12 in a line, and didn't even look like creating. There wasn't enough decoys, there wasn't enough threat with ball in hand. When you look at Italy, Scotland, England, Ireland, they do a lot more with the ball. We couldn't do that. I think we overplayed a little bit as well in that middle period. I think at times we looked good in the air, which we would with Tom Rogers, with Liam Williams, with Josh Adams, very good in the air, but it didn't really look like firing a shot,
Do
which
you
is
think
worrying.
it's because, I mean, listen, to not score a point takes quite a bit of an achievement in rugby, actually, to be honest with you. But I mean, do you think that Wales are now in that period where, I mean, it's, you know, heavy loss. They've had so much chopping and changing in certain positions, maybe 9, 10, 12, 13, that they're a bit confused as to how they want to play.
Yeah, and there's no one really putting their hand up to say, you've got to pick me. You know, I am your man, either at 10, 12 or 13. So you're trying different combinations all the time. You've gone back to Tompkin and Watkin in the centre, which we have tried before. Players that you'd think should be in the squad aren't. So your Max Llewellyns, you know, he probably should be in the team from his form at Gloucester. But, you know, when you go into a campaign with 2 10s, one recognised 10, who's never been capped before in Dan Edwards, and one who 97% of his rugby plays 12 in Ben Thomas. I mean, that's giving mixed messages.
But I wonder about the non-selection of Gareth Anscombe. I find quite interesting because quite often when you're under this sort of pressure, you go with the most experienced players, and a lot of experienced players were brought in. Liam Williams' experience, the midfield's got a lot of caps. Josh Adams. Look, they Will Rollins. There are a lot of caps in the Welsh team. So this whole notion of this is a really young team is erroneous. It's not true. They're young in certain positions, sure, but actually.
Caps doesn't mean quality, though, does it?
No, it doesn't, but it means experience. It does mean experience. But I think about the non-selection of Anscombe in sort of the key position in Welsh rugby. I wonder if, firstly, it really is proof that this is a medium to long-term project, and you're going to pick 2 10s who are going to develop in the team, in whom they see real potential. But I also think it might be quite canny from Warren Gatland and his coaches, because I think having really young 10s, everyone's been talking about how young the Welsh team is. It really isn't that young. Right, but I think it sets a tone, and I think it actually, being crude about it, might buy them some time.
Playing 10, you need forward ball. You need some sort of go forward ball. Otherwise, you're just in the pocket 2 or 3 phases.
But this is what's really interesting, right? So you bring Anscombe in, but what does he get? So like exactly like you've touched on, he might give you a bit more experience. He might not let you overplay because he can manage a game. If you're going backwards and you've got no big ball carriers and you're not getting any gain line, you're not getting any front foot ball, and you're not getting any speed. Like,
tell us what he's like.
The bloke's not a bloody
What could you
magician.
do? What you've been there?
But I think the thing is, it's realistically, look, if you're going to play, you've got to play flat to the line, right? Against a pack like France, you can't sit because Wales were deep. And France just took metres off them easily before they even had to carry. So they've got to flatten up a little bit. But I think you've got to kick your corners. But you've got to kick smartly. You can't kick loose, and then you've got to build pressure.
Struggle with
right?
game breakers. We struggle with game breakers. So people that, when the game is loose, can make half a break and can create something.
And Shanks, listen, Wales are patient, but they've had a lot of success over many years. Gatland and even previously to that. It's patience running thing, because when you look at the Six Nations a few years ago, that was a Wales side that were very competitive. And I was speaking to fans, and they go, I just want my team back.
Yeah.
I just want my team back. They're going to have to wait a little bit longer, aren't they? Really?
Yeah, they are. And it could be 3-4 years. Could be longer, because it's total reset. And you're thinking, right, where's the next group of players going to come from that can grab this team and start delivering results?
Yeah.
At the moment, you're looking at that team thinking, right, well, they're not good enough to compete against some of the top teams in this competition.
We're just talking about compete. Antoine Dupont, Katy, we talk about, he only played, 50 minutes, did he? 50 or 60?
Totally
50 minutes, I think. And not only is he the best player in the world in this generation, I think of any generation, the thing is, everyone almost focuses on him, that they don't even talk about all the other incredible players they have in the team. But in terms of their 9 and 10, Dupont and Tamac, I suppose to Shanks' point, if your forwards go forward, it's a lot easier.
As much, you look at how much time he had. Have we seen a 9 that looks like they've got 5-6 seconds on the ball to make decisions to pick out crossfield kicks? But I think it comes from, like you say, he's pack. The ball is so quick, it's so clean, it's generating momentum. Wales are still coming around the corner, they're not even set, and he's up and moving. I think Ntamak, for me, was pretty distinctly average, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But it didn't make any difference because Dupont ran the show, he hits a crossfield kick, they score from it. Ntamak tries the same, it bounces into touch.
Well, cheap shot at the end as well. We've got him a red card. And
Quite a good cheap shot.
Yeah.
If you're going to go, isn't it?
I wouldn't know if that's, I wouldn't know. Just talk about the forward power then, because they're so big and so powerful now.
6 subs come on, didn't it?
I think that, I think they're big, and they don't just pick on size, but they've got a lot of size to pick from in France. And I think that I thought France scored a lot of points, scored 43 unanswered points. I thought they were distinctly average for a lot of the game, with some exceptional individuals, lots of whom were in the forward pack, producing exceptional moments. I think what bailed them out, they weren't poor, but there were significant periods of the game where they looked to have no shape at all, very little momentum. But they get away with it because when you get a guy who's getting man and ball and there's not much momentum and there's not much organisation off it and there aren't many options for him, to state the painfully obvious, it really helps if he's 6'4" and 24 stone, because he doesn't get battered and he can hold the ball up. We didn't see Romain and Tamac really during the game. It was Dupont's show, which it often is in France with 9s running it. Dupont had a poor start to the game, chose a couple of poor options, executed them poorly. But what you found was that at times, the forward pack is moving forward so quickly that he's able to pick the ball up. And yes, his pass selection is better than anyone else in the world at 9 or 10, in my opinion. What he was able to do is, all that momentum's going forward, he picks up the ball and drops back like a quarterback and just has a look.
Yeah. Like 7s.
Doesn't he,
like 7, a lot like 7s, yeah, and which potentially is
even
something
better
which is learned from 7. So, and quite very often he picks the right options, but Ntamak really didn't need to do that much and didn't. But I think a lot of the time that lack of shape, they're bailed out by the size and power they've got, because they do have Georges-Henri Colombe, they've got Winnie Antonio. Okay, Malvaca at hooker's not a massive guy, but geez, what a player. Buy off the bench, ridiculous. Miafu, I said, Krosu's a second choice player, Aldrit. There are massive units everywhere, or very powerful units everywhere, that bail them out. But I'm watching them and I'm commentating on the game, and firstly I'm thinking, with respect, they are under no threat whatsoever from Wales here. There is no threat at any point, really, which is hard to concede, but I think it's true. And I also was thinking ahead to them playing against England, never mind Ireland, but I think they're going to have to be a lot better if they're going to win this Six Nations that everyone seems to think they're going to win.
Well, listen, Gregory Aldrit was man of the match, so enjoyed that one because Dupont only played 50 minutes.
And 15 of his first 15, 20 minutes were quite average, actually.
Yeah. Ireland against England, 29-22 to Ireland. I mean, I don't think, if you'd have asked us all what the score was, we'd have probably said, well, it'll be Ireland win and maybe a one score game.
Yeah.
And so it's turned out that way. I mean, England obviously got off to a flying start, good first 30 minutes, and then it dropped off. But let's focus on Ireland first for a second.
I thought from an Irish point of view, Lowell, it was fascinating because there's a lot of talk of them being on the wane. They weren't solely reliant on Johnny Sexton, but they were very reliant on him because he was so good and such a dominant force there. So replacing him involved, a lot of the conversation around the Ireland team revolves around replacing him, and that will come to that. And that was interesting. But for me, they're a team that underwhelmed a bit in the autumn, had a point to prove to the world, and got battered for half an hour. And you think, oh my goodness, England are flying. Are Ireland going to work this out? And then the last few minutes of the first half, you just thought, Ireland are matching England now for intensity and power. Are England dropping off? Or are Ireland working things out and taking it up a notch? And I thought in the second half, I'm not necessarily into scorelines flattering certain teams. England scored the tries they scored. And so that it is what it is. You get the scoreline you deserve, but that second half, Ireland dropped off and they had the game won relatively comfortably, but before the last 10 or 15 minutes. But I thought more than anything, Ireland looked absolutely physically up to it, and I thought they looked like a team full of people who, whether it's not a brains trust, but they knew how to win a game. Rugby intelligence, and actually the ingredient. I don't know how you would coach it, or I don't think you can buy it or quantify it. But what they showed in that really the third quarter, the second half mainly, but the third quarter was precisely what England need. It is if you could bottle it, England would pay any money for it, because this is how to win a game. And the situation at 10, I think, is interesting. Yeah. Crowley, for me, did more when he came on. You said earlier off air that he brought things to life, and I would absolutely agree with you, and you would know. But I actually thought Prendergast, I liked the fact that a couple of options didn't work, and he was all right with it. He cracked on. I liked the fact that he wasn't that involved in that he didn't feel he had to be the main man and overplay his hand quite a lot. And I thought he does get skittled in defence a bit. That'll come. That is a worry, but I think that just in the short term, that'll come. But I think this is a guy who looks genuinely thoughtful and relaxed and classy on the ball. So oddly, I think
looked calm. He did look calm.
I thought he looked calm, and I thought that. I tell you what, there's something about him. There's an energy there that I think.
Well, they're still trying to work that out. I mean, I think James Lowe ended up being the game breaker. Really, 5 line breaks, I think, out of the 10 that were made overall, and 3. I think quite a few of those line breaks, led to tries. But England went in with the back row that they did. 2 Curry boys and Ben Earl. And by doing that, they had to keep the ball on the field. It looked like they were punched out by the second half. They went into the game at half-time winning for the first time in a long, long time. And it just felt like they'd used all their options, whereas Ireland maybe... So on 55 minutes, it's 10-all. And, Ireland have huddled up, working out how to win. And England looked like they'd... I mean, Tommy Bowe said, are they fit enough? I think they are fit enough. They're just maybe not as fit as Ireland in terms of playing that kind of game. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I'd say Ireland are a more attacking team and play probably a bit more width, probably a bit more tempo than England. I think they're really clever, Ireland, because on their last sort of 20 minutes, you look at the Tag Burn try. That's proper rugby intelligence. You spoke about it, like how James Lowe hides behind that pod.
Yes.
Yeah, he does wait. He was my man match, James Lowe.
I think England defended heroically, but they still got beaten on the outside. I mean, I think, not naming names, but I will. Freeman, Marcus Smith, Mitchell.
Would you say it's more down to one-on-one missed tackles than actually like a defensive system?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one-on-ones, but I also think we talk about Dupont, but like Gibson Park's impact on it as well, the speed of ball, the tempo, the way he when Prendergast didn't lose his way, but was a bit quieter. Gibson Park just directed them around the field and then picked out edges. And I think, like you say, some of those missed tackles on the edges are just individual. The one-on-ones, you've got a touchline at that level, probably shouldn't be missed.
Yeah.
But what is creating the fold, if you look at England, are getting into defensive shape so late because of the speed of ball, because of the positive contact, then post-contact meters. I think they're the bits when you go back and watch it, we can pick broad headlines.
Well, I know Steve Borthwick was desperately trying to pick some positives. Yes, we scored 2 late tries, got a bonus point. Yeah. Yes, we defended better, okay, and there were certain things about that game. We were still in the game, but the reality is we've lost 7 of 9 tests. We've lost 7 of 9, okay, we've beaten Japan twice. That's all, okay? And, where does this team go from here? Because we're making costly errors, like, high balls, we're missing tackles. Not saying the game plan's wrong, but we're not winning test matches. And at some point, we have to start asking the questions. And I said, if we lose to Ireland, it won't be the worst result in the world. But if we lose to Ireland and France, then at home, you start losing games at Twickenham, it starts to become terminal.
So I looked at, obviously in the autumn, England, and it looked like defensive system errors, maybe. You look at the game at the weekend, I think the system looked all right, more down to individual missed tackles. Did you?
Yeah, I'd go with that. And I always, if I was near a touchline, panicked, for example.
You've got Epi Tione on the drift.
I've got Epi Tione on the
defence coach.
I always thought if you're near the touchline, the only thing you don't ever give someone is the outside, because you try and get to the touchline, force them back in, hopefully your mates cover you.
Yeah.
There was a bit of that, a bit of brain freezing. Caden Murley, who I love, I felt gutted for Caden Murley because he's such a positive player. He's so great to watch, and he did some really good stuff. Couple of brain freezes. I feel like my job is not at stake here with England losing in Dublin or at Twickenham. I feel like if I'm the head coach there, the first thing I do after I've congratulated the opposition at the end of the game, sort of fake happiness for them, is go straight to Caden Murley and say, you're starting next week, by the way. Yeah. Don't worry about it, mate. I feel like you're definitely in.
What would we say about any changes? Keep saying this. I know Steve is trying to get consistency and trust with a group of players, and but we've picked more or less the same group for the last 9 test matches, and we've only won 2. So, I agree. Some of the changes were forced on him in that first game. Maybe Caden Murley, fair Weboso had been fit, he maybe not played. But you think Ollie Chesham comes in? Do you think any others? Tom Willis.
The thing about having someone who's definitely got to play who's not in the team is you've got to remember that you've got to drop someone here. So it's like, Chesham's got to play. Yeah. Tom Willis has got to play. All right, well you're leaving out Curry or Earl, and you're like, right, how do you get rid of those boys? So I think it's whoever you end up with. I think that with all the experience, it's almost like you can't leave Ben Earl at the starting England team, but wouldn't he be great to have on for the 25 minutes at the end? Because he's so explosive and he's bright and he's got loads of experience.
England only had 81 caps on their bench total, and with a lot of players playing in France at the moment, you feel like the depth that England have of players that can play at test level maybe isn't quite the same as where it was or where other countries are. I just felt that Ireland kind of blew them away in the last 20 minutes and were magnificent. So if you're going to have people on the bench, they've got to have a point of difference, haven't they?
Dan Sheehan.
And I've been saying that about England's bench for a little while. It wasn't even in the autumn, closing games out is about your bench having a bit of an impact. And I thought
or winning you games, right? Because Ireland's bench came on and won them a game. And that's the difference. Like you say, Dan Sheehan, you look at Jack Crowley, he upped the ante a little bit. Might not have done anything magical, but he changed tempo, got a bit of pace around him. And I think, like you say, England's best, Harry Randall, ball went up and down. Like there wasn't anybody there that you were like, ooh.
Also, Harry Randall is like, we watch him every week, and he's one of those players that you're desperate to play well for England because you know how good he is, right? 100%. But it's almost like you brought him on to do Richard Wigglesworth's job, the job that he was so good at. Like Wiggy was just the best at that. And you think you almost want Harry Randall to, Francois P and I used to say to Kieran Bracken about how often to have a run. He'd say pass, 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 run. Pass, pass, pass. And it's almost like you want Harry Randall to run, kick. It's almost what you want. Easier said than done. I wonder if a player like Chandler Cunningham South loses out this week.
Well, because unfortunately, he just gave away.
But he came on and made a couple of mistakes. But I sort of think my job's not at stake. But I love him because he's venomous and he ragdolls people. And Dave Ribbons was like that, the big second row from Saints who's now at Toulon. They didn't pick him when he was here, so they're not going to pick him. Certainly now he's in France, they can't. But I like these big, aggressive guys. I think there's still a place for him.
was amazing, wasn't he? We used to have reviews because he coached Saracens.
Yeah.
He'd have some brilliant one-liners. I remember we played against Sale and I was playing on the wing. And we were at some real good position, like 5 metres out at the base. And I knock it on. And he pauses a video and goes, prick. Everyone started laughing.
It wasn't wrong, right?
No, I know. He was so funny.
I remember when we had Alain Penot, Damien Penot's dad, at Fly Off. To be fair, we were 18 and he was about 38 at this point, but we had him at 10. And there was like, we're playing against Leicester and they were the team then. And we beat them in this game. But they got a bit of change through Alan's channel, right? And Alan was playing for France at the time, like amazing player, wasn't he? But there was also 1 or 2 massive proper fights in this game that were the sort of ones, really rare ones in rugby where people actually land punches. And it was going off, right? And like, imagine Francois was like in the mixer, loved it. And all the Leicester boys loved it, right? So you basically, it kicks off and you just avoid Martin Corrie and you should be all right. So
it's like book club for them, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty intense. As 18, 19-year-olds, pretty intense. We get there and in the video, Francois does this thing and he shows a couple of Alan's missed tackles and it's like he's playing touch. He's like, oh, missed him. And it's like, Alan, he called him, Alan. He's like, you won't tackle, but you'll do this. And he walks him, there's a fight going. He's like, whacking everyone, like, piling in. He's running from miles away, smacking lads. And you're like, you'll do that, but you won't tackle. He's like, not my job.
Well,
not my job. We have Steve Ravenscroft. We have Ravers. We have Hilly. We have Ravers. Not my job.
Very smart man.
That's why it lasted so long.
England obviously will move on to France and they've got to sort their one-on-one missed tackles out quite well. Ireland, worryingly, I think that was probably their worst rusty performance. I think they're going to get better and better. Let's move on to Scotland.
And they got Dan Sheehan now, so game over.
31-19 Scotland. I mean, hat-trick for Hugh Jones, probably the player of the match. Van der Merwe, Darcy Graham was outstanding. Had a bit of a wobble, didn't they, in the third quarter, where the Italians came back at them. But I guess they had to win the game twice, which is even better if you're Scotland coach. Who was covering that game? Were you covering?
Well, no, I wasn't covering it, but I was interested to hear opinions from both of you guys on Sione Tuipoluta's not playing, so that's a nightmare. So you've got to bring someone else in.
Definitely affected Finn Russell a bit. He was not having had that one outside. I mean, Finn's plays brilliantly.
Yeah.
He blows hot and cold, obviously, but mainly hot, very hot actually.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's no bad thing if he's still got plenty left.
He's good though. Like he doesn't let a mistake affect him, does he? When he threw that intercept, just crack on, doesn't he? Yeah. That's a good sign of it at 10.
It's hard to replace Sione at 12 because apart from anything else, he's really, really good at everything, right? And it's not they built an attack around him, but they've got used to having him building their attack during games in key moments. So in terms of his replacement, Stafford McDowell, I know you like him. I like him too. How do you think he went?
Okay. It's tough boots to fill though, isn't it, with Sione, because he's just multi-threat, the carrying, the vision, playing out the back, playing it short, attacking, kicking game. I have a feeling that Tom Jordan may come in that.
Big fan.
Big fan. Physical, plays a lot of 10 but can play 12 as well.
Good name.
Yeah, because they want to play the same way. Yeah. They want to play the same style. There's no point just trying to reinvent the wheel for Scotland. I think what they did fall into for a little bit during that game was the all-out attack, which Glasgow do. So Glasgow don't really kick points at goal. They go for the corner, they go for the big kills all the time. And I think in that second half, Scotland went for that and didn't come away with anything. Then they allowed Italy back.
That's an interesting point you made, because I think they were way ahead of Italy in terms of possession, territory, all aspects of the game. I mean, when you got Finn Russell as your 10, you almost don't need to attack from everywhere because he'll do that for you anyway. You need that kind of bit of balance with, like they have at Bath with Ben Spencer kicking a little bit more. So it's going to be fascinating. But genuine contenders this year, Scotland?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I think, like you say...
pause.
Well, I don't know. I think, like, Finn Russell, for that, is your hero zero. That's why he's brilliant, right? He wasn't that bad, but I think you can see when it's not working as neatly as it has done, the damage he can do to Scotland's side when he's trying to force it a little bit more. And definitely that middle section, he went through that. I don't know if they'll win it. I think they'll be up there towards the top.
They score tries, though. They've got a good attack. They've got proper danger men. I spoke about Wales not really having game breakers. You've got multiple game breakers.
You've got lads who aren't in the team yet.
Yeah. Now, listen, we're going to move on to our team of the round. Obviously, wins for France, wins for Ireland, wins for Scotland. So they will predominantly be in our team of the round. That doesn't mean other players can't. Flats, we've obviously concentrated on your area of expertise.
Go for the flash stuff first, come on.
So your front row and...
Travelling reserve and tight head.
Who are you taking?
Travelling reserve.
Travelling double driftwood.
So you're doing front row and a lock, please.
I'll do front row and a lock, and be slightly potentially controversial because not all of my front row started at the weekend. But Cyril Bay coming on for France,
out the back.
Fischetti for Italy was fantastic, I thought. But Cyril Bay is a cut above. He is absolutely mega. If the French qualified for the Lions, he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet. he came off the bench, been out injured for a long time. He was fantastic in the tight, in the loose. He's a big unit, but his involvements, just class everywhere. I think he's wonderful. Quick game's a good game. Dan Sheehan, say no more, off the bench. He's the king, starts for the Lions, full stop. And tight head, actually going to pick a player from a losing team. I'm going to pick Will Stewart. Will Stewart's got a lot of caps, but I like him because he's big and heavy, which I like on the tight head. But
Xander Fagerson not come in the mix?
Xander I really like, and he plays a ton of minutes. But if I'm picking a team, which is what I'm doing, I'll have the 135, 138 kilo guy who is rock solid, and he actually does make hard yards in tight. He's active for his size. He's not as active as Xander around the field, but as a tight head, and especially now we want to get the ball away from scrums more, he's a big old lump. When he gets his anchors in, he's really hard to move.
What club is he at?
Bath.
All right.
But there were a few decisions against England at the weekend.
You're still on the payroll there, you know?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I haven't been for a decade. But I do think a couple of decisions that went against England, and I do call it as I see it. I thought they weren't quite the right way. I didn't think England struggled as much as the penalty count might make out.
Listen, you and I are going to split the locks.
I'll have Manny Miafu, please, just because he's bigger. French giant, all the skills, mobile, agile, hostile. If you are not at 99% full chat as you run anywhere near him, you're going backwards and getting smoked. He is mega.
Okay, I'll take over. Second row, I would go Ty Burn. I think he's one of the best players in the world, if I'm honest. But no one sees. You know, there's so many players that get talked about in games. He doesn't get talked about as much as I think he should be. He's like the Richard Hill of the Ireland team.
Jackal threat.
Jackal threat. He does everything. To me, he's a complete. I mean, he's a kind of almost like one of the old Kiwi second rows that can play in the back row. I think he's a superb rugby player.
He's going to quietly end up with 100 caps.
Yeah, nailed on for the Lions. You know, and you know, has already been a Lion anyway. And I just think I thought he was superb in everything. And you know, just the offload for the try.
Back row.
Back row, I'm going to go with who I thought played very, very well. There's so much competition. Tom Curry, I thought is back to his best. It's great to see him. He hasn't quite got the pace of the Tom Curry that first burst onto the scene.
But he's a machine, isn't he?
Honestly, the engine and the work rate and the you know, if the tight five had get any kind of dominance over, so I thought in a losing side, I thought he played very well. I'm going to pick a Welshman in Jack Morgan, who I thought was outstanding at 7 in obviously a losing side. He wasn't expecting to be captain so quickly again, and I thought his work rate. I mean, it's not often you score no points and you end up in the team of the round.
Is he a Lion, do you reckon?
Yeah, I do. I think look, they're going to take some Welsh players. I think he's definitely at the forefront of that. So he's
stood out in a poor team.
A very poor team. So those two, and then I don't think there's any contest really for number 8. I think Gregory Aldred back to his very best and player of the match. And I think that's the back row. Katie, over to you.
Yeah, so my halfbacks, I think probably no surprises. Dupont at 9. However, really struggled with an out-and-out fly half that really went well. I thought Finn Russell, like we say, was
really
in and out.
around for the 10th.
No, Entomat, no. Marcus Smith bits. Jack Crowley off the bench. So my proposal to the table was Gibson Park to 9, and we moved Dupont out to 10 because probably they were the best halfbacks. He's very French. He can play across both.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that Le Garrec, who came on for Dupont, was as good as Dupont when he came on.
You're going to get so much heat on you.
My only question would be who kicks for goal.
Yeah.
Who kicks for goal?
Dupont doesn't kick for goal, does he?
It doesn't really matter, to be honest.
Probably could, couldn't he?
It's so boring.
Well, it's all right because if you put Ramos at fullback, then we're all right.
You overthink it, mate.
I agree with you. Of all the mixed bag, I think Marcus Smith probably had the best game at 10 in terms of
it's your team.
Of all of them.
It's my team.
But I think you've lost the plot.
Do you? That's harsh.
You've got the best player in the world out of position. You've lost it.
Well, no, because I think
Gibson Park, though.
Anyone from EastEnders, can they make the cut?
You've lost it, Songe. You've lost it.
Right, come on, moving on. Centres.
Centres. 12, I'm going Bundyaki. I thought that try you finished off, incredible.
Boy, he's a mutiny.
There's a lot
so strong,
but you talk a lot about Sione Topolotu. Like, he's up there as well. Bundyaki with what he delivers.
Apparently benches 200.
No.
That's what I heard.
He's a unit.
Right,
so he's 12. Hugh Jones at 13.
Unbelievable.
Really good.
Really
finishes
easy.
Tries. His vision is really good.
I've got a hat-trick. If you're not in the team, if you score a hat-trick and you're not in
Exactly.
Have you met him?
No, he's got perfect hair though,
Mate,
which I like.
He walked in.
I
did a corporate thing and Hugh Jones walked in and it was like...
It's like an espresso advert.
Oh, mate.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like George Clooney didn't look as good as that when he was in his mid-20s. He walked in, I was like, he is perfect.
Okay, wingers, Darcy Graham, huge involvement. Often just cuts back inside, finds weak shoulders, gets on the front foot.
Hate to play against him.
I know, so difficult to put down. And who I thought was player of the match for Ireland, James Lowe on the wing. Been out injured a fair bit, come back, and like I don't think he's blessed with massive, huge pace. No. Like he's not the pace of a Colby or something like that.
5 line breaks for the game.
But he is so clever with how he attacks. Right. He's so strong, he's really intelligent, relentless, physical.
I'll go with that. And your fullback, your Peter Schmeichel.
Fullback, you two are sharing the fullback.
Yeah,
go on, you go first.
Hang on, let me guess, you're going to put a fly
off back
together.
There, yeah. She said together. Thomas Ramos.
And then we've got a goal kicker, done.
Do you think so? He
is playing with a level of sporting arrogance that I have rarely seen since Lowell retired. He's just out there and he's just like, I'm going to do exactly what I want. No, if it doesn't work, it's your fault.
I thought that, it just never happened all the
time. Well, that's a good team.
Right, we're gonna move on to Shaun Edwards. He'll be quietly happy about the fact that France didn't concede a try or a point.
I think he will, but I want to know about him as a potential Lions defence coach. I want to ask you about that, Lowell, because you know him better than well, both of you know him really well. I watched France defend at the weekend. First of all, I thought this is really passive. Then I wondered, is this really clever? Because they don't think Wales had enough to really... So they actually sat back, let Wales do what they wanted and knocked them off. And I thought this is actually, unless it happens again next week...
It was smart, wasn't it?
I thought it was smart, and I wondered if a passive defensive display like that might actually have been so clever that it's a sort of thing that gets Shaun Edwards on the Lions tour.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think he's smart enough to adapt, that's for sure. It's not all about blitz defence. It's got to be, one way. Maybe the French hasn't quite as improved as much as he thought. Yeah. Listen, Shaun Edwards is...
Wait till next week.
He's the most incredible human being. He's only ever... I mean, I think he played a little bit of rugby union, then obviously joined Wigan, and he's a serial winner. What was his quote? I would swim to Australia to work with the Lions. So
I reckon you don't say that in an interview if you haven't already had a text.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if listen, no one knows him better than Andy Farrell. But if he picks him as a Lions coach, it wouldn't be the worst.
What do you like in your time with Wasps?
Yeah.
Chilled? When he just chilled?
Just very chilled, yeah. I mean, he was...
strikes me as that kind of bloke.
So intense. He used to give you a handwritten note about, before you went into the game, literally in the changing room about sort of an hour before the game, and it's just 3 things: aggression, aggression, aggression. That's how we're going to win. You talk about one-liners. He says, lad, defence isn't that thing that goes around your garden, you know that? I think the greatest one was, unless you're dead, or you've got serious spinal concussion, or you've broken a leg, you get yourself up and back in the defensive line.
Yeah,
which I think was pretty relevant.
I remember being in a pub in Fulham on a Sunday night, and he was in there in a suit that wasn't the best fitting suit, but it was a suit.
Oh, he had a choice of
number
clothes,
ones. He had a suit on and a pair of trainers. And nowadays that's cool, but then it was unusual. And I just made a passing comment. I was standing with Phil Greening and made a passing comment. And I said, I'm not sure about the suit with the sneakers, like the old sneakers. I'm not sure about that. You off to the gym in your suit? And he goes, mate, you never know when you might have to get on your toes. If it goes off, mate, and get out of here.
But Shanks, you'll know this. He had individual relationships. He treated players like humans. Like Voice and Tom Boyce and Paul Saki. He'd say, look, lads, if Tuilangi doesn't score a try against us, I'm going to buy you a bottle of Cristal and a cigar each. Yeah. So when we won the European Cup, they're both waiting in the changing room like that. And I'm sure, probably true to his word, he probably did.
And it worked for Sacks and it worked for Voice.
Unique with how he taught as well, how he coached, because he was very aggressive.
Yeah.
But the boys bought into it. Yeah. Not only because he was a legend and they'd sort of seen him play for Wigan, for Great Britain, but just the way he did it. It was his way. He knew everything about it. Whatever you questioned him, he had an answer for.
Did he motivate you in a certain way before a game?
The team, I think, was good. He was just great to have around because...
Was he extra hot when he played against England? Was he extra...
Yeah, the first time he coached Wales was 2008. Him and Warren Gatland and Rob Howley were in. We're playing England at Twickenham. And you know this, Lol. He gets involved in the changing rooms before a game. We were in the changing room in Twickenham, and you can hear him shouting stuff. He's going line speed, line speed, line speed, aggression, aggression, and you don't want to get caught looking at him because he'll just eyeball you out then. And he's going, I fucking hate these English. I fucking hate these English because that's his mentality. Like,
he meant it as well.
He meant it. Like he was Welsh. He was in that Welsh camp. Whoever we were playing, he hated. He took it personally. And I looked over and he's got St George's Cross tattooed on his arm.
He
was in the moment.
Yeah. Whether you can coach like that, I mean, he used to say rugby's a street fight with a few rules thrown in. I mean, that was his view.
Yeah.
Emotional. Never.
We loved him though, and honestly,
I bet
he was the biggest loss to Welsh rugby was losing him. And we're so glad he didn't go to England. He went to France. He's invaluable.
I do remember playing for Bath against Wasp when he was coach, and there was a fight basically, but it was a pretend fight. It was just posturing. No one really hit anyone. And I was there with Tim Payne, and we were good mates, and we were scrummaging against each other. And we knew it wasn't a real fight, so we're having a bit of a cuddle and sort of pretending to stick the Swede on each other. But Shaun Edwards, we're by the touchline. Shaun Edwards is almost as close as you are. And he couldn't understand that Payno and I were joking in the middle of this fight. And he's at Payno and he said, Penny, if he wants some, give it him! Give it him! I was like, give it me, Payno. Give it him! He's like this far away. I'm thinking I'm just out of range for a jab here. So I'm just like that. I'll just get out of range. He was losing it. I said, Payno, I think you're going to have to hit me, mate, because he's going to hit you otherwise.
He did 5 minutes with the backs in Wales about how to carry more aggressively into contact. And he's sort of showing us, ball under there, elbow like that. So we're doing it against tackle shields. And after about 5 minutes, Warren Gatlin comes over and says, Shaun, you can't do that, that's illegal. And he just said, all right, fine. Forget that.
Okay, we've done our best not to push forward to next weekend, but we're going to go with some predictions. Huge games. I think the first one is Italy-Wales, isn't it?
Saturday,
that is a huge game.
Saturday, 2:15. I'm over there.
Come on then.
With your fingers crossed.
Put your neck on the block.
I don't know. I just
leave it at that.
Oh, listen, you're on the fence.
I've had 15 years for that.
You're on the fence in Switzerland at the moment.
You're not on the fence, but I just don't know which way it's going to go. That's how difficult it is. Part of me, I think, when it's that close, you go with the home team, which is Italy.
Go on then.
Italy.
There we are. I said
Italy.
it. I said it before you.
I just copied you.
Yeah.
Italy.
That's why he never tells me what he's ordering in a restaurant before we get there.
Okay, probably no Entamac. Ramos moves to 10 maybe after Jalibert threw his toys out of the pram. You never know.
I'd pick Jalibert at 10.
I'm going to be bold and say that England will win.
Yeah, same.
I think if they lose, it is terminal and they have to make changes. I think England have to win one of their first two.
I think there has to be a desperation. I think there will be. I think France, the scoreline...
Don't travel well.
I don't know. I don't always believe in scorelines flattering teams, but I think that Wales... I don't think expectation has been lower for Wales going into a game than in a very long time, maybe ever than it was last weekend.
Yeah.
So France weren't tested and they still look like a good team with some exceptional individuals, and England, I think, will have had a defensive kick up the arse and they won't miss those one-on-ones and they'll beat France.
I really hope you're right, but I just don't see how England's bench competes with that French bench. That bench.
It's close though.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Yeah.
And then, intriguingly, Scotland against Ireland, which is...
Murrayfield?
Yeah. I mean, the Scots have always made that mistake of winning a game or two and then getting a bit excited, talking themselves up.
Mostly against England.
And then, all right, 4 of the last 5, actually, to be honest.
There we are.
I agree. Can anyone see Scotland winning this game?
Definitely. I think the pressure is on Ireland with where they are. I don't know, what do you reckon?
I think Ireland. Again, I think quality and like the James Lowe effect.
This could be an incredible game.
Could be.
Talking about,
two teams want to play.
Talking about Scotland's back three. I'm going to go with Scotland, all right? Because
I'm going to go with Ireland because I think they're going to win a Grand Slam.
Ooh, do you?
I think everything's changed now after the first weekend of predictions.
That's the beauty of
I think minutes 35 to about 60, 65. I saw a performance in Ireland that I haven't seen in France for a while. Yeah. And I thought,
I'm going Ireland.
I think it'll be too hard to beat.
Excellent. I'll go with Scotland. There we are. Lions. We talked about Shaun Edwards' potential coach of the Lions.
Yeah.
What we want one player from the round. Obviously, we've been the French off. Yeah, they're not eligible.
Darcy Graham is a guy that all the rugby supporters want to go on the Lions trip, but I reckon he's a guy that ends up potentially getting left out because Duhan goes and there's loads of other amazing options. I think I would hate to play against those Scottish wingers, and I think his stock went up again at the weekend.
I think you need to compliment wingers.
I agree.
Yeah. So, Jack Morgan, stock up.
Yeah.
In a losing
100%.
team.
Well, Dan Sheehan,
third game in captain now, isn't he?
Third game in 6 months.
Yeah.
And
I mean, his stock was there.
Yeah.
It's now there.
Yeah, and I think
But it
maybe
was,
both
tight
Ireland
anyway.
hookers.
Ollie Lawrence, I think, went well in that England side. With a Bundy Aki. I mean, he's always been in that mix, but he just was next level Bundy for Ireland.
Lovely midfield, that Bundy, Akin, Ollie Lawrence. Mind you, Hugh Jones went all right anyway. Not easy, is it?
There's loads had
easy.
real good games. Stick to Rugby is brought to you by Defender.
Right, I've got some questions for you, Lol.
Really?
This is something that none of us is that good at. It's
Oh,
Quickfire.
Right.
Lol to answer, flats to ask, all right? Best player you played with?
David Flatman.
Thank you.
No, Martin Johnson.
Oh, right. Same thing. No, he is taller.
No, Martin Johnson. Or Richard Hill in the back row.
Best player you played against?
Jonah Lomu.
Nastiest player you faced?
Andre
Venter.
Venter. Responsible
answer.
for... None of them are straight now.
Yeah. The moment you wish you could have back?
Probably that kick to the post at Wembley. So that we'd have beaten Wales, wouldn't we? And
Can't let it go.
Won a Grand Slam.
Can't let it go. Scott
Yeah, I mean,
scored an awesome try.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I lost once to Wales. Worst day of my life.
It's the first thing I think when I see you every time I
Yeah.
see you, Lol. Best day in rugby?
It's a tough one, that. I mean, World Cup finals, obviously, it really getting to the top of the world.
Yeah, it goes all right, doesn't it?
Lions pretty good as well, mind.
If you weren't a rugby player, what would you have been?
Able to walk a bit easier.
Touch your
Slightly more
toes.
mobile, actually. Out of bed a bit quicker.
Well, I worked in property, so who knows? I was good at getting squatters out of shops. I think that was my key trait.
Have you ever been starstruck?
Yeah.
Who?
I was in Milan getting a suit fitting, and I was invited to men's fashion show by Giorgio Armani, and George Clooney came and sat next to me, which was a bit
Nice.
yeah. And we obviously had a quite good fun night out actually.
Best contact in your phone book?
Ray Winston.
Ray, oh yeah.
You know what he said to me once I met? I said to Ray, "How's your day been?" He goes, "Yeah." He'd just been filming Sweden. He goes, "Yeah, I've been running around London shooting guns. It's been brilliant."
Yeah, perfect.
And now understand why you like him.
I thought, what a good job.
Any chance you get Ray on the pod, do you reckon?
I think so. I mean, he's irons really, but I mean, we'll get him on.
Yeah, we'll get him on. Best team talk you ever had? Not the gave. Best team talk you ever had before a big game? Presumably Jim Telfer, but there might be another.
Yeah, I mean, Everest, yeah. I mean, first all second test, Lions in 97 is, I mean, you can look at it on YouTube, look at it now. Jim Telfer, unbelievable.
Watched it last night.
That's what
As a pack of forwards.
Jono was saying.
I mean, literally, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was amazing. To give Clive Woodward credit, the one in Ireland that Jono mentioned, if you lose this game, you've got nowhere to go from here. I mean, there was no swearing or anything.
Brilliant, that.
He was actually quite right.
And Jono's right, it's a big statement. I do remember playing against Argentina in 2002 in Buenos Aires, a tour you didn't come on. They rested some of the big dogs.
Set up a try for Phil Christophers, didn't
Yeah, it was match winning. So I was young, really young, and they picked me at Luced to play against Argentina, who then were the premier front row, front five in the world. So I think everyone was a bit nervous that a kid was playing Luced because Steve Thompson was playing, Vickery was playing, all that. Anyway, before the game, I felt like Clive had picked me, but then he was sort of thinking, God, I hope it's the right pick. Don't know, not sure if everyone was sure. And then right before the game, I'm having my back loosened off or whatever, I'm on the physio bed, and I think it was Barney Kenny, a physio, goes bang, and I'm a heavy bloke, whatever, but I broke the bed and it went smash on the floor.
The first
and
one.
the physio goes, and everyone sort of panics because I'm playing for England in 20 minutes and I'm on the floor, and Clive walks in, and he goes, it'll take more than that to break him. He's like, strongest kid I've ever seen. And it was one of those little things, he said it deliberately, and he helped me up, and it was one of those things that he knew what he was doing. I wasn't the strongest kid in the world, and I went out there thinking, these poor blokes, they might be legends of the world game, but I know that this guy, who's the king, I know that he thinks I'm the best. Whether he did or not, he sent me out that one comment. Yeah,
Got your
brilliant.
head.
Yep.
Actually,
Right, guys.
who was the funniest person you've ever played with? And I was
Funnest. Well, yeah.
over to you.
Well, I don't know.
Stuart Abbott.
Oh, Stuart Abbott.
Acidic.
Acidic, acerbic, cuts you in half. Oh, brilliant. Very, very funny guy. Julian White would be up there for me.
Yeah, he would be.
Man.
Andy Powell for me.
Yeah.
Andy Powell.
Yeah.
You can't. I couldn't be in the same room as Julian White sometimes. I was just in meetings and I'm just looking at the ceiling, anywhere. And as soon as I look around, it's me, or Gruey, Danny Grucott or Julian catch each other's eyes.
We had the England team meeting, and in those days we'd all got to this point where punctuality was a big thing, which it is. If you speak to Roy Keane, he'd say the same.
Yeah.
How can you trust anyone who can't turn up on time?
Yeah.
Anyway, literally, so people would be turning up for team meetings 15 minutes before it started.
Yeah.
So I go, all right. Anyway, we're in a team.
Yeah.
Julian White, obviously. Julian White was the only man. He was obviously late for training, and he comes in. The whole meeting, we've been going for a good 10 minutes already.
Yeah.
So it wasn't
Well
late.
into
It was super late. He comes in full because he on a motorbike, full leathers. Still had the crash helmet on.
Yeah.
Walked in.
Crash helmet under his arm. He walked in leathers.
Walked in with a crash helmet under his arm, and Mark Regan, hooker, went, "Here, pizza's arrived."
It was like you could not have written it any better. Yeah, and as far as we're aware, because I had to take Whitey's training, his kit to training, because he was on his motorbike, right, and I stick it in my car. I'm going to ride down. So he turned up and pizza right, and it was like perfect. Whitey is the only person that Clive would just allow to be late. I remember being late.
To be fair to him, I think Mark bailed him out there because it was so funny.
I think you're
even
right.
Clive laughed. Have you ever been late for a game or for a...
I missed a meeting in Dunedin the day after we got hammered by the All Blacks, and it was made worse because I'd missed it because I'd got leathered the night before.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And and it made it worse again because I hadn't even played because I was injured. I went on tour injured, and I was injured for the whole month.
You were unlikely to play again for a little while.
Oh mate, I was basically on a stag do, knowing I had this injury that was getting worse, and I was basically on a stag do getting paid. I did say halfway through, I didn't put my boots on once on the whole tour. I'm not bragging about it. I hated it. I felt massively like imposter syndrome. It was awful. But, the lads took care of me, and Katy took me under his wing 9 or 11 times on Wednesday night. Everything was fine. So I went out, and I'm in this bar, and the late, great Jerry Collins is in this bar in Dunedin. And I'm sort of at the bar, he's at the bar, and he comes over and says, "Come for a drink," and he basically says, "Well played today." And I said, "I didn't actually play." He's like, "Who gives a shit? Do you want a drink?" He said, "Do you like whiskey?" And I don't, and didn't then.
But you went,
and he said, "Yeah." I said, "I love it." So anyway, he goes, "We'll get a bottle," and he's got a few mates with him, and we're chopping loads of whiskey, and I'm thinking, I'm going to pay for this in a big way, but I love this. This is a hero. I'm going to drink with this guy. So I did it, and I stuck it out. All I know is next is boom, 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 boom on my door in my hotel. Danny Grucott, my mate, burst into the meeting. "Mate, get out of bed, the meeting, we're in a meeting." I was like, "Oh my God, we're leaving to fly home," whatever it was. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what? Get out of bed. So I'm like, trackie on. I'm like down to the meeting, and this never happened. This is once in 15 years, never happened to me ever. And I'm completely out of it. Gets me to the meeting. I walk into the room, and I'm hoping the boys are like, "Ooh," and they're not, because New Zealand put 40 on us from memory. Walk in, and Clive is just like that. And it's silent. And I remember the room being really hot, whether it was me or the room, it was really hot. And I looked around, and he just said, "Sit down." And I looked, and there were the worst bit was there were no seats. I couldn't see a seat.
You just wanted someone to say, "Pizza's here."
But Shawsey, no one made a joke for me. And then Simon Shaw's there, and he's like, "Oh, Flats, go." So I go over and gives me a seat, and it's by a table. I go to sit on the table, and I put my hand on the table to sit, and I miss the table. So I'm like that, boom, and I go like that, and I fall onto my seat. All I hear is Shawsey going, crying with laughter. Anyway, they're like, "Right, on the bus. Flats will speak to you later. Get on the bus." I'm like, "Oh, mate." So I went and got on the bus. I'm first on the bus. I'm not stupid. I'm first on the bus. 10, 15, 20 people are on. Gruey gets on the bus. He's like, "Mate, where's your kit?" I was like, "What? All your stuff is still in your room, mate. You haven't packed." Like, "Oh my God." So I went straight from the meeting, straight to the bus. I didn't even go and get my stuff. I was still pissed. "Mate, get off the bus." I might say, yet again, everyone is waiting for me. It was horrendous, mate. It was absolutely horrendous. Anyway, that's why he never picked me. Otherwise, I'd have been captain.
Well done.
Politics.
Good podding, guys. Well done.
Yeah. Well done.
Well done, guys.
Well done.
Team.